I'm driving down the road where the pickup trucks are slow, far from the big highway. I'm searching for a sign saying breakfast 99, looking for that cowboy cafe. That cowboy cafe, that little greasy spoon. That cowboy cafe, and let the jukebox whine a tune. The waitress, she ain't spoiled, and the coffee's always boiled. Looking for that cowboy cafe. Pick it, Chris. Okay. I'm thinking way ahead, yes, I'm hoping I'll get fed. Flapjacks are falling off my plate, a slice of apple pie and a side of fries. I'm looking for that cowboy cafe. That cowboy cafe, that little greasy spoon. That cowboy cafe, and let the jukebox whine a tune. Waitress, she ain't spoiled, and the coffee's always boiled. Looking for that cowboy cafe. With a checkered tablecloth and the crackers always soft. They don't mind if you spend a day. You can while away the hours trying to smell the plastic flowers. I'm looking for that cowboy cafe. That cowboy cafe, that little greasy spoon. That cowboy cafe, and let the jukebox whine a tune. Waitress, she ain't spoiled, that coffee's always boiled. Looking for that cowboy cafe. Well, thank you. Yeah. So I moved out of the state that must not be named many years ago, and came here to the desert. This was in the wake of social turmoil and upset, with the goal of growing my own food in the desert. I was younger then, and writing cowboy songs. So I'm going to start out with some of those and move on. Here's a song about a used horse. I don't know if any of you have horses. Any horse riders here? Well, if you are in the horse business, you buy a horse, it's usually a used horse. And the thing to watch out for is the used horse salesman. Whoops, let me find the right harmonica here. Hear this song, there it is, and they they think it's about cars, but car lingo has crossed over into horse lingo, and so trust me, this is actually a song about a horse. Well, I went to see my old friend Slim. He had a horse called Lou, looked just like him. Lit me a smoke, told an old joke. He said, you ought to give Louie a spin. Threw on the saddle and reins, shoulda requested new brains. Put one foot in, took off like the wind, learning that Louie ain't lame. You need a bald-faced bay with the right appeal, lots of chrome and 4 good wheels. Slip the clutch and it's the real feel. Louie the horse was a real steal. Yippee-ki-yi, yippee-ki-yi. Well, Lou knew the way to a bar. We made money on racing the hot rod cars. Round and near, folks threw me beers, and I felt like a shooting star. Lou knew the way to a ranch. Heavens, how that horse he could dance. Jumping over the barn, I waved my arm, ripped a hole in my pants. You need a bald-faced bay with the right appeal, lots of chrome and 4 good wheels. Slip the clutch and it's the real feel. Louie the horse was a real steal. Yippee-ki-yi, yippee-ki-yi. Well, we headed down under the hill, crossing the place of Shotgun Bill. Did a double loop, hit the chicken coop, came up a running still. Joined the parade in town, all the ladies was gathered round. I tipped my hat, kicked his fat, Lou said shoo and lay down. Need a bald-faced bay with the right appeal, lots of chrome and 4 good wheels. Slip the clutch and it's the real feel. Louie the horse was a real steal. Yippee-ki-yi, yippee-ki-yi. Well, they offered me $50, saying get that darn cayuse unstuck. He's in the way of the band, the 9-foot man, and the antique fire trucks. Moving Lou wouldn't do, till I waved a bottle of glue. I took off in a sweat with a majorette. He gave Slim $1 or 2. Meet a bald-faced bay with the right appeal, lots of chrome and 4 good wheels. Slip the clutch and it's the real feel. Louie the horse was a real steal. Yippee-ki-yi, yippee-ki-yi. Well, it seemed that eventually I moved into town, and I never quite made it as an official cowboy singer because I didn't own a ranch. But
or a horse.
well, I had horses and pigs and chickens and stuff. I gave all that up to, for the glamour of city life. Used to be a cowpoke riding around out where nothing but the coyote sound. Now I'm drifting like the hobos do, 'cause the bright lights turn a buckaroo blue. Sitting on a stoop and the car horns blow, stop signs red and the gamblers slow. I'm looking for that pebble pebble in my shoe. 'Cause the bright lights turn a buckaroo blue. Midnight star bright, don't seem to show. Reno town fooling round, big neon glow. High desert moon, rodeo queen, fill my cup with a western dream. Tell me stories, make 'em wild and true. 'Cause the bright lights turn a buckaroo blue. Had me a shack in cottonwood shade, jackrabbit dancing as the sunsets fade. Now I'm working at a job that's new. 'Cause the bright lights turn a buckaroo blue. One-armed bandit shaking my right, jukebox of whiskey and a two-bit fight. Get me going, call the jailhouse crew. 'Cause the bright lights turn a buckaroo blue. Midnight star bright, don't seem to show. Reno town fooling round, big neon glow. High desert moon, rodeo queen, fill my cup with a western dream. Tell me stories, I'll make 'em wild and true. 'Cause the bright lights turn a buckaroo blue. It should be the city's theme song. It's a real sort of Nevada theme, you know, having to come into the big time, into the big city from living out in the desert. You know, we're the most urban state in the nation. The highest percentage of our population lives in the city in Nevada than any other state in the nation. And we are also the state with the most area with the least population of any, you know, the most empty state in the nation. We're not like anything. And so down in the great big city, people rushing by, everybody in a hurry, and I don't know why. There ain't nothing for me, I'm here but I could die. And every night when I walk out, I look up and cry. Give me back Nevada's moon up in a western sky. I wanna hear those coyotes croon, feel the wind rushing by. I wanna smell the sagebrush after the rainfall. Give me back Nevada's moon, and I'll be happy after all. Back home I had a sweetheart, boys I loved her true, but she only wanted money, so it's money now that I do. She had some other feller's baby, so now I play the game. Gals done up in rhinestones, everyone the same. Give me back Nevada's moon up in a western sky. I wanna hear those coyotes croon, feel the wind rushing by. I wanna smell the sagebrush after the rainfall. Give me back Nevada's moon, I'll be happy after all. Someday when I'm sick and dying, don't you worry about me. Send me some old pickup truck, a driver fast and free. Send me down some desert road, far from these walls of sin, so I can tell St. Peter as I come roaring in. Give me back Nevada's moon up in a western sky. I wanna hear those coyotes croon, feel the wind rushing by. I wanna smell the sagebrush after the rainfall. Give me back Nevada's moon, I'll be happy after all. So I thought the whole thing, endless possibilities here for, desert angst. I think where I really knew that I was not cut out to be a cowboy singer was after this next song. I actually was playing up in a canyon one night for a bunch of hippies. They danced a lot. I'm not sure what they were dancing, but they were dancing. And I was driving home with my first wife, whom I later divorced. But I said, "Honey, write this down. It's really hard to write a song while you're driving." And I had this thing in my early years where somehow, some people it's in the shower. With me, it was driving cars at night and in the desert. And so she wrote, and I dictated this song, which is a stunning example of off-color cowboy lyric. So I encourage you to thoroughly to listen to the words, because on the surface this is just another yippee old lady song, and this is where I knew I wasn't cut out to be a wholesome cowboy poet, because you not only have to have a ranch, you have to be wholesome. I first saw Desert Dinah late at night outside of mine, and we was herding doggies through the night. Old Texie had the lead, and he took a mighty beat, saying, "Boys, gander up some candlelight." Dinah stood before her window, and my heart was near to tinder as she combed her tresses to her side. All the buckaroos did yip as she set to dip her slip. You could hear 'em call across the desert wide. Yippee-ti-yi, yodip-yodelay, yodelay-de-ah-de-oo, yodelay-de-ah-de-oo. Well, Dinah didn't cotton callin', rocks started falling, buckaroos skedaddled across the range. Conjunction she unloosed, maybe ordinary use, but to cowpokes profanity is strange. I was staggering down the street one Sunday in the heat, Dinah crossed my path upon the way. Freshly out of church, she set my heart to lurch, till the only thing that I could think to say was yippee-ti-yi, Yodel-yip-yodel-lay, yodel-lady-yodel-you, yodel-lady-yodel-you. Well, it must have been my singing that set her arms a-swinging. I fell into her clutches there and then. And I bandaged up my head, I asked her if she'd wed, and every night I ask her once again. My life would be most certain if she'd only buy a curtain or put her candle further down the hall. In her parlor smoking stogies, still I'm smelling dogies, and I dream that I can hear the desert call. Yippee-ki-yi-yi, yodel-yip-yodel-lay, yodel-lady-yodel-you, yodel-lady-yodel-you. I really disqualified myself as a cowboy singer with this next song because this is really intended for a punk polka band with an accordion. You know, I know there are punk polka bands with accordions somewhere.
Where?
Probably in the upper Midwest is my vision of this. When you live in an isolated location like Nevada, you know, you imagine that there are cultural things somewhere in the world that you don't have.
Can I go for Pittsburgh?
You're from Pittsburgh, and there are punk polka bands in Pittsburgh, aren't there? And so, if you can maybe get the videotape of this and send this to some of your punk polka friends, because no, I'm serious. When you hear this song, you're going to say he's right. That is a punk polka song.
Oh, you're taking me home. Oh.
It is, and yet. They'll have to learn this to perform in Vegas because it's my effort to expand my musical horizons and on the extraterrestrial highway, we were driving along in my Ford when I saw a light from the skyway shining in the eyes of my adored. Could it be some new family casino or an alien from deep outer space? Perhaps the Department of Energy disposing of nuclear waste. Are they shooting a sequel to The Misfits? Are they looking for fans of the King? Perhaps they are hiring extras left over from filming The Thing. Should they put us in a 12-step program for lovers out on a lark? If they give us a ride, where can we hide? Will my sweetheart glow in the dark? On the extraterrestrial highway, they stopped me for going too fast. I said I was doing it my way, 'cause nothing in this life is gonna last. I just want to be radioactive. I just want to wear diamonds and gold, drinking beer in a bar on some exploding star where love cannot grow cold. Are they shooting a sequel to The Misfits? Are they looking for fans of the King? Perhaps they are hiring extras left over from filming The Thing. Should they put us in a 12-step program for lovers out on a lark? If they give us a ride, where can we hide? Will my sweetheart glow in the dark? On industrial highway. I put my foot through the floor and got stopped by a cop. Oh, he got me too hot, but he wanted to see more. I just showed him my secret decoder. I just pointed at the Milky Way. I grabbed my girl, we set to whirl, and rode off on a ray. Are they shooting a sequel to The Misfits? Are they looking for fans of the King? Perhaps they are hiring extras left over from filming The Thing. Should they put us in a 12-step program for lovers out on a lark? If they give us a ride, where can we hide? All together now, the universal question: will my sweetheart glow in the dark? You know, that's a Nevada song. I mean, you know, you just can't do this anywhere. You know, what are they going to wonder in Pittsburgh? You know, it's, you know, steel mills. I mean, come on. Anywho,
it was very lively.
well, it was lively, and it would be better when the punk polka band does it, and you know, kind of the electric bass and the accordion. You heard that in there, didn't you?
Yeah.
I did too. Songwriting is a kind of funny thing. You don't really set out to do anything on purpose. In fact, having a cup of coffee and sitting at the kitchen table and feeling silly is usually my mode of operandus. I tend to kind of go between Irish melodies. Time out. Cookies at the banjo player.
I remember a movie called Roadhouse.
Oh yeah.
Well, after moving to the big city and still wanting to do Western music, which I began to call Western music, not cowboy music, because again I didn't qualify to be in the cowboy club. I also got very interested in Gold Rush music, and you know, so as will happen, I began to compose mining songs, and so here's a little lyric. It kind of sums up my view of the Gold Rush. He came out west from Ireland, Jack Donald was his name. He came to work the railway and play the miner's game. He fell in love with a Paiute girl, which was against the rules, and fought a man in Reno town who called him a darn fool. He broke out of the county jail and vowed that he'd be free. Up in Virginia City, Jack set out on a spree. In a rush to make his pile, Jack robbed a Montebank, but spent it all on whiskey. His friends all promptly drank. Late one night out on the road, Jack robbed the evening stage. On bar he met the novelist who wrote the Western Sage. Says he, "Now Jack, you strike me as a fairly clever lad. Let's go down to Carson Town and we'll put on the cad. Soon Jack rode home to his ma in dear old Ireland. I've got a silver-headed cane, no pocket full of sand. I never curse, I never swear, the gals I know are fine. My boys out on the corner put down all sorts of crime. Late one night while gambling, Jack drew a royal flush. He nearly fell out of his chair. He could not help but blush. He glanced o'er at his Rosie, and panic filled his face. Jack saw that he had tipped his hand in forming the whole place. Jack drew his pistol from his waist, but pulled too hard too soon. The echo from that awful blast rattled round the room. Jack lay dying on the floor, wonder in his eyes. The final words our hero spoke, "Sure I am surprised." Came out west from Ireland, Jack Donald was his name. He came to work the railway and play the miner's game. He fell in love with a Paiute girl, which was against the rules, and fought a man in Reno town who called him a darn fool. Yes, well, at some point, if you get on the email list, we'll inform you. But I'm hoping I'll come back and do a program of. On specifically on historical Gold Rush songs, and with that thought, I'm going to put the guitar down and get out the banjo, tell a small story about a historical tune, and then we'll take a break. One of the things that I'm putting up on the website, nevadamusic.com. Are, of course, MP3s, recordings of original songs. Having written songs for 40 years or more, I have at least 15 that merit being listened to. But the other thing that I'm putting up there are MP3s of historical far western banjo pieces. And so if you come back at some point and you get on the email list, maybe after the first year, Linda's so hard to deal with. It's just she's just no. She's so great because I call her up, I email her, I say, Linda, how about I come down and play some music? She says, okay. That's about all the complexity I can handle. So this is an 1870s fretless banjo. It's a banjo with inlaid fret markers. There's no frets. And it's tuned and played in the style of the Gold Rush era. The five-string banjo was incredibly significant in the Far West from 1849 onward. And not brought overland, brought by ship to San Francisco and then came east. And if you come sometime to the program on Gold Rush Banjo, I'll be playing some pieces that were sung and in Virginia City on this instrument, and going into great detail because there's long and fascinating and very entertaining stories behind each of the pieces that can be played on this. It's largely a forgotten section of history, and my goal is to sort of bring back the whole notion that there was a Gold Rush banjo, that there's this body of music played on this instrument in the style that I play it, in the tuning that I play it, pretty much like I play it as far as we know. But I'm just going to do a tune called the Indian Cotton Jig, and this is an instrumental piece. And the title tells us a couple things. One is, during the Civil War, there was an embargo. Of course, there wasn't Southern cotton coming into the North in the East. And cotton was coming into California from India. It was rather scratchy cotton. It wasn't the highest quality, but you had to get cotton from somewhere. So this is this is a California tune. It's a tune that comes out of probably the Civil War era in California. It's called a jig because although it sounds to us like a hornpipe, it was danced as what was called a sand jig. And a sand jig was where the performer would put sand on the stage. And instead of dancing in the hornpipe style of the British Isles, would dance in the what was called straight jig or sand jig style of the plantation. It was a plantation jig. It was an African American jig. So the arms were out like this. The posture was much more an African posture. Many of the steps were the same, but it was much looser and interpretive, the ancestor of tap dance. And this particular tune is still played in the repertoire today of Irish material, interestingly enough, because this song went from California to Ireland, where it's now called Off to California. For a living. Trust me.
Just had the wrong
There's a real double standard in this state. I don't know if you've noticed.
You got a job.
Yes, there's the standard for those who arrive and leave their money and leave again. And then there's the standard for those of us who are here. Have you noticed that? And those of us that live here are much more conservative. I mean, we are so conservative. We not only want local control. You know, we want, like my house is in control.
Unless you live in Las Vegas.
Well, we're not sure that Las Vegas is really here to stay.
Do you think it's part of Nevada?
Is it really part of Nevada?
It's just
I
an
don't think so.
extension of California.
I think the debate is out on that. And after the recent 40,000 homes foreclosed in Vegas, I'm thinking that they probably aren't supplying much to our tax base in the north.
Yeah.
And we could probably divest ourselves, maybe another state, or sort of like, maybe they could take a status sort of like, the Bahamas or something, kind of a refuge for, rogue financiers. So now I play, if you're interested, by the way, you can come here. I play every Monday at Comma Coffee in Carson City. If you're out and about, every Monday at noon, I'm there. Sometimes with Jack on the washboard, Gary on the cowbell, and this is true.
I know Shelby doesn't like it, that's why we don't come.
And we are directly across from the legislature.
Appropriate.
That wasn't a joke.
You have a big season coming up.
We have a big season coming up, and we sit there, we have a cup of coffee, and we come up with all kinds of ideas for songs that we can't sing. But I'm going to give you a smattering of the ones that we have come up with, so that you get the general flavor. For one thing, this was inspired by a bumper sticker, and we're now moving into the ragtime, because I do a lot of ragtime there. Driving along in my foreign car, talking to Fred down at the bar. I may be slow, but I'm not alone. Quit honking, I'm on the phone. Quit honking, I'm on the phone. Turning left over a cone, you spastic wacko lowlife drone. Quit honking, I'm on the phone. Fred says, hey, what you listening to? 5 dead animals from the zoo. That trucker thinks I'm in his zone. Quit honking, I'm on the phone. Quit honking, I'm on the phone. Turning left over a cone, you spastic wacko lowlife drone. Quit honking, I'm on the phone. So, yeah, so we have been exploring the outer limits of ragtime. And actually, that's just a warm-up to this next song, which was inspired because Gary, who plays cowbell with me, grew up under a bar stool in Virginia City, and I come from a long line of saloon singers. Literally, my dad was a saloon singer. His father was a vaudeville saloon singer in the 20s, published a song, actually. And his father was a German musician in the Civil War. So, and came from a German family trained in the conservatory, and now I've descended to this, it's... But in any case, I was looking at ragtime. Ragtime is really 2 kinds of music. It's popular ragtime and classical ragtime. Popular ragtime is songs, and classical ragtime are strictly instrumental pieces that sort of rise to another level. I'll give you an example of each one. These are traditional pieces. This is a popular rag tune from 1900, at which time, of course, everyone knew that, what we all now know, that ragtime was the downfall of civilization. Got more trouble than I can stand ever since ragtime struck the land. Never seen such a sight in my days. Everybody's got the ragtime craze. I held it off just as long as I could. Now I've got it and I've got it good. Never wanted it in mind, but I'm standing right in line. I got a ragtime dog and a ragtime cat. I play ragtime banjo in my ragtime flat. I got ragtime clothes from my head to my shoes. I read a paper called the Ragtime News. I got ragtime habits and I talk that way. I sleep in ragtime and I rag all day. I got ragtime troubles with my ragtime wife. I'm living a ragtime Sunday morn. The hymns were in ragtime, sure as you're born. The grip man plays it on his gong. Clocks and watches are run all wrong. Ragtime music is in the air. You can't dodge it, it's everywhere. I never wanted it, you see, but now I must agree. I got a ragtime dog and a ragtime cat. I play ragtime banjo in my ragtime flat. Ragtime clothes from my head to my shoes. I read a paper called the Ragtime News. I got ragtime habits and I talk that way. I sleep in ragtime and a rag all day. I got ragtime troubles with my ragtime wife. I'm living a ragtime life. 1900, isn't that great? Great song. That's a pop ragtime hit, and there was just lots of these Tin Pan Alley. Tin Pan Alley was born with ragtime. People were cranking out these songs because there was such an incredible market for it all over the world, all of a sudden. It changed music totally. So that's a pop rag tune. I can't play you a typical piano rag because I've discovered that piano rags are very hard on the guitar. So I'm classical rags. They're just they are really idiosyncratic to the piano. So I wrote one. So I'm going to play you a classic rag, and it's an instrumental. What makes a classic rag is its structure. I know you're all interested in this. It's got 3 parts. Thank you. It's got a flourish. It's got a certain kind of modulation from key to key, and it comes back to the first part at the end. So I don't know if that makes sense. So we were sitting around the coffee shop one day and getting a little strange. And I had been researching Banjo Bob Darch. Ragtime Bob Darch was a piano player. Ragtime Bob was a ragtime musician who moved to Virginia City about 1956. This was the first of many ragtime musicians to come to Virginia City. And he went up there and he said to the bars, he said, I'll put on a ragtime jazz festival in Virginia City. And the bars gave him not a nickel. So he held it anyway, and the crowds drank up all the booze in town. Imagine that, in Virginia City. Drank up all the booze in town. He was left holding the bill. And so he took his ragtime festival, 1959, to Toronto, Canada. Now, he had rediscovered U.B. Blake. He was the guy that brought U.B. Blake back. He also gave Joseph Lamb his first paying gig. Joseph Lamb was one of the big four. Scott Joplin, 1903. Joseph Lamb, one of the four big classical rag. He was still alive. He was 90-something in 1959. Gave him his first paying gig in Toronto, Canada, because Virginia City couldn't come up with a dough. But there's an opera house rag for Piper's Opera House that Bob Darch and U.B. Blake wrote. In the sheet music, there's a list of 10 other Virginia City rags, none of which anybody has found, except that I did some research and I found a reference to the Virginia City rag, co-authored by by U.B. Blake. Joseph Lamb helped with Piper's Opera House rag. So apparently, when Ragtime Bob Darch died, his papers were left to his family. I got a hold of the lady that runs the Ragtime Festival in Missouri. I said, where are these rags? She says, well, his family has the box of papers. They're in a barn in Minnesota. And when they get around to it, they're going to send them to me. So anyway, we got really big on thinking that ragtime was probably a traditional sort of Nevada music. It was in Virginia City, by the way. Virginia City was a ragtime and jazz mecca for years. Now you go up there and they're singing Cattle Call, but there's a lot of cattle on Geiger Grade. But cowboys are big. Shoot 'em ups. See my essay on NevadaMusic.com, Gunslingers versus Banjos. But if you're interested, yeah, we'll get to the book. So anyway, here's our. Happy, my old pappy used to set me on his knee. From his heart he'd impart how the world ought to be. As he'd croon, the whole saloon would rise and sing along. The joints a throbbing while I'm a bobbing, and pappy sang this song. When it's ragtime in Nevada, pour me another shot. Bikers, bums, and cowpokes, hippies smoking pot. Hunkers, hustlers, UFOs, that sweet thing on a tear. When it's ragtime in Nevada, I'll be there. Rattlesnaking, syncopating, tough guys check their guns. Boardwalk floozies, shout out woozy, pappy, make it fun. All night on the upright, Boise held me near. Fingers snapping, toes a-tapping, he whispered in my ear. When it's ragtime in Nevada, pour me another shot. Bikers, bums, and cowpokes, hippies smoking pot. Hookers, hustlers, UFOs, that sweet thing on a tear. When it's ragtime in Nevada, I'll be there. Left, and I'm bereft, still I play on the old banjo. Sage and pine, beer and wine, everywhere I go. Desert moon, one more tune, gotta make it swing. These rhinestones, gonna moan, shake that thing. When it's ragtime in Nevada, pour me another shot. Bikers, bums, and cowpokes, hippies smoking pot. Hookers, hustlers, UFOs, that sweet thing on a tear. When it's ragtime in Nevada, I'll be there.
State
I-
song.
I have-
State song.
I have, pardon?
Our state song.
Our state, no, I could do the state song. I've got a couple that not all my songs are questionable like this. You know that song. I sometimes think if you haven't spent a winter playing banjo in a Virginia City bar where the guys come in and check their guns, and they're not. I'm not talking about the cowboy gunslinger, and reenactors. I'm just talking about the ordinary folks coming in checking their guns in Virginia City in the winter, which I have done. I played up there one winter, and this was many years ago. But there's a different culture out there, is all I can say, and I'm trying to capture it in that, and I think it's going to offend some people. I worry that it will offend some people who may think that I'm making this up. Hookers, hustlers, UFOs. I mean, no, they're all there. That's really what you see when you're there, and. In the shadow of sage and pine, by that silver dome flag flying, I hear that train whistle sighing, Carson City Serenade, where Chinese laid the rails and Nevada tells her tales. I dream of long square nails, Carson City Serenade, by an old house in the shade of cottonwood where fences fade. Tahoe blows down the glade, Carson City Serenade, where the western desert starts and the highways meet apart. I take the bluebird to my heart, Carson City Serenade, as gas lamps light the night. On the hill our sea shines bright. These wild words I write, Carson City Serenade. Like a pioneer I talk to ghosts on wayward walks, a pogo nip on trees and rocks, Carson City Serenade. By an old house in the shade of cottonwood where fences fade. Tahoe blows down the glade, Carson City Serenade, where the western desert starts and the highways meet apart. I take the bluebird to my heart, Carson City Serenade. 10 million cars whiz by, never know that border sky, or the zephyr's lonesome cry, Carson City Serenade. Then the old clock sings a song, Cactus Jack waves along, every tumbleweed belongs, Carson City Serenade. By an old house in the shade of cottonwood where fences fade, Tahoe blows down the glade, Carson City Serenade, where the western desert starts and the highways meet apart. I take the bluebird to my heart, Carson City Serenade.